Isn't it unimaginable nowadays to just have a high school dropout, Peter? I'm going to be the next CEO. The thought of becoming family with a pool person is just too dreadful. These are the words I often hear from my younger sister's fiancé's brother. Despite that, my sister Nancy always seems happy, albeit with a wry smile, so I've been putting up with it. I'm Peter Fisher, a 35-year-old man. You see, like he said, I only have high school dropout and I'm working. Of course I wanted to graduate from high school and maybe even go to college, just like everyone around me. But reality hit hard, and I had to drop out of high school to work. For teachers, I had to work. Person I had to support Nancy. We grew up without a father. I don't know the details, but as far back as I can remember, it's always been just my mother as our parent. For people, we were poor. Our daily meals were often just potatoes. I had to ensure I wasn't bullied at school. My mother made sure I took a shower daily. So the time was short, despite our poverty, life with my adorable sister and my mother was manageable. But things started to change when I was in high school. My mother began using expensive cosmetics I didn't know where she got them from, and she would leave late at night. Just when I wished she would spend that money on us instead. At Sturdy Tibians, then worst imaginable happened. It's when I was a freshman in high school and Nancy was 5. My mother left us for another man and never returned. The house was empty when I returned from school. Most of the furniture and appliances were gone, probably sold for money, and there was hardly any food left. Nancy was all alone, probably crying the whole time. Worse in pub race, was furious with my mother. Full of hatred, but hating her didn't bring in any money. I worked tirelessly for Nancy and me to live. Before school, I delivered newspapers, and after school, I worked at a bar until late at night. When I returned from my part-time job, I often found Nancy alone, probably crying by herself. In her face as she slept, there were traces of tears. Despite working hard, the money was never enough. We were far from living comfortably. Every day, I encouraged Nancy, saying, "Smile, Nancy. Smile, options." I believed that no matter how poor we were, something good would happen if we kept smiling. Yes, and then I made up my mind. It was that I'll work to make Nancy happy. Continue, I decided. Z for me. I put an end to my high school life, but finding a job with just a high school dropout was near impossible. I called numerous places and visited them in person, only to be turned down each time. And one day, while sitting despondently in a park, a man approached me. He offered me bread and a drink. I ate with tears of gratitude. He listened to my story. Out your help in needing to work, having a much younger sister, and having no parents, he offered me a job. You've done well to make it this far without money. How about working at my place? I'll talk to the owner for you. He took me to a place I knew, even in my situation. A renowned luxury hotel in our local equivalent of Vermont. I'd never been inside before, but he led me to the owner, Bob. I explained my situation to Bob and expressed my desire to work there. He listened quietly and seriously to my disjointed story. When I finished telling my story, he simply said, "How about you work here as a live-in employee? And of course, bring your sister along." I can't express how relieved and happy I felt. "Yes, thank you so much. I'll do my best," I replied. And the very next day, I started working there. It was my first real job, and boy, was it tough. I had to redo greetings over and over, and my days were filled with all sorts of menial tasks, but I worked hard every day to raise Nancy happily. As I got used to the job, I started learning manners and proper conduct from scratch. I got scolded a lot, but I learned a lot too. I used all my earnings for Nancy. When she started elementary school, I remember buying her a backpack. It was the first thing I ever bought her with my own money. She was so happy with it. She used that backpack until it was worn out. Nancy saw a woman at the hotel being proposed to with a big bouquet of roses and said, "I want to be someone who receives that many roses one day." We didn't have much, but I bought her a single rose every year on her birthday to celebrate. Other than that, I saved every penny for her living expenses. I managed her household finances, so Nancy could choose any college she liked. I even found enjoyment in my job while raising her. Fast forward 20 years. I'm still working at the same hotel. Nancy had graduated from college and turned 25 years old. She expressed her desire to help people who struggle, just like we did, and became a public servant working in the welfare department at City Hall. She wanted to do even more for those in need, often saying that she fought for them every day. One day, she said to me, "Peter, there's someone I want you to meet." I knew she had a boyfriend, but I never asked before, thinking it might be awkward for a girl her age. Wow, are you getting married or something? I joked, but she replied seriously, yes. Really? I asked, feeling genuinely happy for her. But congratulations, Nancy, I must have said it 100 times. I was truly happy for her. In front of her, I expressed my congratulations many times. Of course, I also felt a bit of sadness. It felt like she had really grown up, and I experienced the complex emotions of a father sending off his daughter to get married. Then, she showed me the engagement ring her boyfriend gave her. It's a beautiful ring, I commented. Is he wealthy? I asked, and her answer was more than I expected. Yes, he's the son of a company president. They distribute food products, and they even do business with our hotel. He has an older brother, so he won't be taking over the company. That made sense to me why he could afford such a fancy ring. I have a request, Nancy said. What is it? I'll do whatever I can to help. I've lived at this hotel and have so many memories here. I was wondering if I could have my wedding here. What do you think? I was touched by how much she had grown. Of course, I replied. Bob will be delighted. He'll be looking forward to your big day. I'll talk to him tomorrow. Nancy beamed with joy. That night, we shared many memories of our life at the hotel. The next day, I spoke to Bob about Nancy getting married and her wish to have the wedding at the hotel. He seemed genuinely happy, saying, of course, let's make it a wedding that Nancy will be delighted with. But I couldn't help feeling a bit anxious about the future. I had no parents or relatives to rely on. Nancy had only me, her brother, who had dropped out of high school. I wondered what her fiancé's family would think. Had she told them about me? Before I could ask, the day came for the families to meet. Nice to meet you, I greeted Nancy's boyfriend, Sam Morrison. I'm Nancy's boyfriend, Sam Morrison. He introduced himself. I've heard a lot about you from Nancy. Sam was a very impressive young man. I had been worried about being looked down upon because of my background, especially since he was the son of a company president, but there was none of that from him. In fact, he seemed to admire and respect me. But my relief was short-lived. Suddenly, Sam's brother Richard chimed in. You're a high school dropout, right? Richard blurted out as soon as we met. I was taken aback, but managed to reply, well, Nancy is working hard as a public servant, so please look after her. Well, Nancy, what a pitiful life with a brother like him. Richard continued, Sam, you're lucky to have a brother like me, don't you think? Sam and Nancy tried to smooth over the situation, but his words were like daggers to my heart. Our family runs a company, you know. Richard said, I guess a Pooh-A person like you wouldn't understand the significance. Even with a wedding, we're planning to invite our important clients, but having a pool person as a relative would lower our reputation. It didn't matter what he said to me, as long as Nancy was happy. But then he said the words I dreaded the most. I guess we can overlook Nancy since she's pretty, but I don't want to acknowledge you as family. You're just her brother, after all. And you know, don't come to the wedding. It's a celebration with our clients. After all, a pool person like you should just stay home and celebrate your sister's new life. Do something brotherly for once. Even his parents just gave a forced smile, not knowing how to react. I was fuming inside, but chose not to retaliate, thinking it would only upset Nancy. It's understood. I won't attend, I said calmly. Hey Peter, Nancy protested, but I quietly left the scene. She tried to persuade me multiple times afterward. She said, I want you there, Peter. I want you to see it. But my mind was made up. I don't want you to feel bad on your big day. As an employee, I'll do my best to celebrate your new beginning, okay? She seemed unconvinced all the way to the wedding day. I could at least witness her shining moment as an employee, not as family. The owner, Bob, and my coworkers were putting a lot of effort into the wedding. Bob came up with special dishes and cakes, while my coworkers, even after hours, handmade decorations every day. By watching them, I felt happy, thinking about how much they cared for Nancy and her special day. All this for Nancy. On the day, I celebrated Nancy as much as I could as an employee. I arranged a surprise by scattering her favorite rose petals during the newlyweds' entrance. And I decorated their seats with plenty of roses. That was all I could do. My coworkers kept asking, why aren't you attending as family? Each time, I just smiled and said, I'm an employee here. I'd work to do. In my heart, I wished I could celebrate with her as family. Nancy, despite being the bride, looked unhappy. She must have wanted me there. I overheard Richard saying, "It's refreshing not having such a failure of a brother at the wedding." The toast was made, and people started enjoying the meal and drinks. Richard was drinking heavily. "Hey, bring me some wine, the expensive kind." "Hey man, I told you, bring the next round." His inappropriate behavior was quite noticeable. And then I started to hear whispers from the people around us. "What's with that guy?" Then he started loudly disparaging me. "Do you know why the bride's family isn't attending? She has no parents, and her brother is just a high school dropout. It's a miracle such a lovely girl came from that. I can't believe I'm eating food prepared by a high school dropout. But don't worry, your family will make her happy. She should forget about the Fisher family and take the Morrison name." The other guests started whispering, "That's terrible." I could tell they were whispering among themselves. "It's so inappropriate." I was close to snapping, but I kept reminding myself not to ruin Nancy's important day. As I struggled with my emotions, I caught Nancy's sad eyes. "I smile, Nancy," I mouthed silently to her. Witnessing it, she forced a smile, tears brimming in her eyes. The moment for the last dance came. Since her father wasn't there, she appointed me. Instead of dancing with me, she started reading a message with her voice quivering. "To my dear brother, Peter, you gave up your high school life for me, working hard at this hotel. And Bob, thank you for always supporting us and for making today so wonderful." Bob and my coworkers were tearfully listening to her speech. We had no parents, and I used to cry every day. But every time, my brother would be there, telling me, thanks to him, I have lived a happy life, smiling every day. Without him, I couldn't have survived. Despite his own hardships, he always wished for my happiness. She finally broke down in tears. X of crying, she's on fond memories. I was able to attend the schools I wanted because of my wonderful brother. "Burning," she said. "My brother, who supported me so much, is my favorite person in the world. Thank you so much." Sam was there supporting her as she wept. It's watching them, I held back my tears, feeling reassured. She would be happy with Sam. The room erupted in applause for her, and I felt incredibly proud. Suddenly, the mic announced, "Here's Nancy's beloved brother." Caught off guard, I looked down. Hearing her letter, my face was already a mess with tears and a runny nose. I never wanted her to see me cry, so I tried to hide it by saying, "Thank you." "I appreciate that." The room showered me with applause and praise. "You've done really well," they said, like I'd never experienced before. The whole venue was swept up in emotion. Then I saw Richard, drunk, approaching the EMC. As I prayed for him to stop, a coworker intervened. "Nancy's letter was beautiful. Truly, Peter Fisher is a reliable person for all of us here. And now, let's present a special gift to the groom's brother. Please, this way," they said, leading him out of the venue. Sam looked embarrassed. Thanks to my coworkers' quick thinking, Nancy's big day wasn't ruined. Richard left, as he staggered and asked, "Where's my gift?" He bumped into someone. He yelled, "Ouch, watch where you're going." Thanks, in front of him stood a man, dressed in an expensive suit. The person he bumped into was none other than our hotel's owner, Bob. However, it seemed like he didn't realize that it was the owner. "You've been quite rude since earlier," Richard retorted. "Shut up. Such a poor guy deserves it. Our family runs a big corporation. I don't need advice from an old man like you. I'm the next CEO. Let's move it, old man." He kept spewing one complaint after another. Bob listened quietly. Then he said, "Richard, I am the owner of this hotel. Your behavior is unacceptable. Please leave. I run this hotel. We'll see business dealings with a company like yours." Richard went pale. "Oh, you are the owner? Well, I mean," he stammered, barely coherent in what he was trying to say. "But you know, I was just too drunk." Bob spoke calmly. "You're the next CEO. Our businesses were connected for years, but now we'll stop all dealings." Suddenly panicked, Richard started protesting. Hearing the commotion, his parents rushed over, their faces pale with worry, and they hurried to the owner. "We're terribly sorry for the trouble our foolish son has caused. Thank you for always favoring us. Our company exists thanks to your hotel." Seeing his parents' deep apology, Richard seemed to realize the gravity of his mistake. Bob sternly said, "We will see business dealings with you. Perhaps you should first properly guide your son." He then looked back into the venue with a polite smile. Devastated, Richard muttered, "What should I do?" and slumped to the ground. And he clung to me, begging, "You work here, right? I apologize for everything." Please somehow convince your owner to reconsider. I'm begging you. But I only said, please, just don't hurt Nancy. And returned to the venue. The next day, the owner was indeed on the phone with Richard's parents. I never want to use ingredients from such a disrespectful person's company again, he said angrily. Pretty less to me tough over the phone, I could hear repeated apologies. We're so sorry for our foolish behavior. Later, Sam and Nancy came to the hotel to greet us, wearing matching rings on their left hands. They reported that they had officially registered their marriage and apologized for Richard's behavior. Sam had been working at a major food company for experience and said he would continue there. His family's company, after losing business with our hotel, apparently went bankrupt. The connection with us was significant, and the company quickly struggled financially after Bob cut off dealings. Sam expressed his apology again, saying, I'm truly sorry for not stopping my brother's disrespectful behavior and for hurting you. I have utmost respect for you. If I were in your position, I don't know if I could have protected Nancy like you did. The way you Skitumblesons, the way you've cared for her is truly amazing. I will do my best to make her happy from now on. I was overjoyed. It wasn't about being praised for working since high school or working at a luxury hotel, but about being recognized for who I am. As for Richard, he was disowned by his family with the words, you need to start all over again. Now, I heard he's wandering without a destination and without any money. But if he ever changes his heart, I thought of helping him. I understand the pain of having nowhere to go and no money more than anyone else. Nancy and Sam are living happily. They participate in volunteering activities on weekends, like food distribution and supporting the needy. As for me, I was praised for my conduct at the wedding and my past achievements, and Bob even mentioned me as a potential candidate for the next owner. Whether or not I become the owner, I'm happy just being called Peter and working in a job I enjoy. Surrounded by a respectable owner and trustworthy colleagues, I am very happy.